What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another video. Before we start, if you are new to the channel and you are interested in lifestyle talk, if you're interested in fitness style videos, martial arts videos and general vlogs, then consider subscribing. Also guys, if you enjoyed this video, please smash that like button. Alright guys, so in today's video I'm going to be going over my top 5 things that I think that you will need to know if you are about to start your PGCE course. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Before we start, I need a coffee. Cheers. Okay guys, so if you're watching this, I'm going to assume that you know what a PGCE is. If you don't, a PGCE is essentially the postgraduate course or qualification that you need to complete if you have a degree that's not relevant to teaching in order to become a teacher. So there are 3 different styles of PGCE, and they're all based on age essentially. The first one is if you're interested in teaching at nursery level, so reception and nursery level. The second is from ages 5 to 11, which is essentially primary school, right? Years 1 through to 6. And the last one is if you're interested in teaching at secondary level. And each style of PGCE is obviously going to be slightly different because you're in different environments and you're expected to teach and work in different ways. So the first thing that you need to be aware of is that you were going to be thrown into the deep end. There isn't really any other way of learning to become a teacher than there is to actively teach. And you will find, if you are on a PGCE course or if you are about to embark on one, that everyone on the course will have different experiences. Some people will have been TAs before, others, like me, will have had very little, if any, experience of teaching within a primary school classroom or a secondary school classroom. But you will be thrown in the deep end. As an example, within the first week of the course, myself and my cohorts, the other people that I was training with, we were all put in school for 2 days to essentially help out TA and to get involved straight away in the learning and the teaching process within a primary school. Now you will find, and again I had this experience too, that on a frequent basis you were going to be expected to do stuff that you weren't planning to do. It might be a case that your teacher is off sick and you've only been in the school for a week. This is a theme that happens throughout the entire course, so you're gonna have to get used to it. Ultimately, just go with the flow. Now, one of the biggest pieces of advice that I'm going to give you is, because you are being thrown in the deep end, and ultimately, right, you only have a year to learn how to teach. So because you've only got a year, take advice of as many people as you can. And that doesn't just have to be from your university lecturers. That doesn't even have to be from the main teacher that you're working with. TAs, dinner ladies, absolutely anyone within the school environment that has been involved with it longer than you will have more experience, and their pearly wisdom will help you in the long run. As a slight side note from that point, seek as much advice as you can. Even if it only seems small, even if it doesn't seem worth your time or worth their time, seek advice, ask for an alternative opinion, especially of someone who's got more experience than you, because it may be a case that what you think is small actually turns out to be quite big, and if you don't ask, you might regret it later. So every university admittedly runs their PGCE courses, as with all the rest of their courses, different, and that means that everyone's experience of a PGCE will also differ. However, there are some similarities. One similarity that is almost guaranteed is that not every placement that you go in or that your friends go in is going to be the same. As an example, when I was doing my PGCE course the year just gone, generally speaking, I had some really positive experiences. However, when I compared those experiences to some of my friends, they were completely different. I mean, in my first placement, I had TAs that went out of their way for me, that even bought me Christmas cards, and they couldn't do enough to support me, and they essentially gave me their emails, the teacher even gave me her own telephone number, and said that, you know, if I wanted any advice, it was there whenever I needed it. However, there were other people on the course that didn't have quite the same experience. And in fact, and this isn't to worry you, but a lot of people went home and actually were forced to tears. Like, there were a lot of examples where schools hadn't treated them very well. I mean, I'd even heard horror stories, like there were schools where if you were a student or you were a TA, you weren't even allowed in the staff room. So the biggest take-home message for this is, regardless of how you view primary schools, never assume that you're going to have a nice placement. Always be prepared in case you're in a class where the teacher doesn't particularly get on well with you, because ultimately you are sharing their class, right? You are sharing their class, you're teaching their children. So expect the worst, hope for the best, and prepare for all scenarios. Okay guys, so number 3, and actually probably one of the most important pieces of advice that anyone can give you when doing a PGCE course. Stay organised and keep on top of your damn work. Now, you'll probably find that you have lots of things to do. You have planning for lessons, and at the start that planning is every single lesson. You need to create a full plan that covers about 2 sides of A4. This will naturally thin out as you go through the course, so don't panic too much. You're not expected to do that all the way through the year, and actually they want to see you condense it and make your work life more efficient. You also have something called a PDP. Try and fill it in, try and add to it after every significant teaching experience that you have had, or just any experience that you've had that covers the wider ethos of the school. The last thing that you want is to get to the end of the year and realise that half of your PDP is not filled out, and then you're left panicking because you've got tons of work to do. And you also are going to have assignments, and unfortunately the way that the PGCE works is that you have to get on with your assignments while filling your PDP out, and while planning, and while teaching, and while doing all the other stuff that you're expected to do. So although you probably feel like you have no time, make sure that you get on top of your assignment, because again, as with the PDP and as with the planning, you don't want to leave it last minute. You want to make sure that you're ahead of yourself so that you can produce the best piece of work that you possibly can. Now, one thing that's brilliant about the PGCE is you do get an awful lot of experience going into different primary schools and different educational settings. But you do need to make sure that when you're within those settings that you are conducting yourself in a professional way. This is no longer just a normal degree course. The main reason is because the schools that you are going into, they may well have a job come September. And if you've done well, if you've worked hard, if you've maintained good professional relationships, they may well offer you a job at the end of the course. Alright guys, and my final tip, my final piece of advice, the cherry on top of the cake, I suppose, is you've got to still enjoy your year. There are so many people that I met throughout my PGCE course that were just hating life. They were concerning themselves with things that really didn't have an impact on the final decision as to whether they passed or not. So you do need to take time for yourself. If you normally enjoy meeting up with friends for a drink on the weekend, if you normally like going and hanging out with your family, going for a coffee, going to the cinema, whatever you might be interested in, your favourite hobbies, make sure that you keep time for yourself to do them, because otherwise the workload will go up, you'll get more stressed, and ultimately guys, you will still end up, hopefully, as long as you work hard, with the same result as someone that did enjoy all of those things. So make sure that you have time for yourself. I mean, if you manage to get that ideal balance, you're halfway there already. Okay guys, well I'm going to wrap the video up now. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope it is helpful and you take something away from it. Again, as I said at the beginning, if you do and if you have, please hit that like button. If you're new, consider subscribing. And if you want to know anything about my experiences of the PGCE, please comment down below. I promise I will get back to you. And I will give you any hints and tips and anything that I feel that you might need to know. As a slight side note, I do really enjoy doing these style of videos, and having just finished the PGCE course, I'm still fairly fresh when it comes to the experience that I've had, right? So as some of you may well know, and if you don't, I have done a video on it. I have got a job for September, and I start in a few days, but that obviously all depends on when this video comes out and when you're watching it. But because of that, because I'm starting my NQT year, one of the things that I'm interested in doing is sort of starting some kind of NQT video diaries, something like that, to track and to go over and to discuss and talk about how I'm finding the NQT year. And as part of that, I'll also do a few more videos talking about the PGCE, as having just finished it, it's still fresh in my mind, and there are still lots of things that I can think of that might help if you are in the position where you're either about to start the PGCE or you are on it yourself. So guys, that is all from me. Thank you for checking in again, and I will see you next time. Peace.